Hi, this is Crystal Blue, and I'm here to record the third card for the first It's Elemental reading. Hashtag It's Elemental is also the title, so other people can find it if they haven't found my messages yet on YouTube as Crystal Blue. So, with that, I'm going to get right into this because I have to work tomorrow and I want to make sure that I get this last extended done. It is November 1st, and earlier today I drew a card for the monthly that I'm also going to be starting. So I have several balls in the air right now, and one of them is to round out the lower tiers of Patreon with more content, and some of it not so complex and easy for people to just peruse more quickly than getting into these more detailed messages. But also, Spirit sends me these detailed messages for reasons. So those who are more studious or more interested in what Spirit is doing on our behalf and for the planet, you can get into more of my involved readings, including Earth is Magical and new sensations. That's new sense, gaining a new sense of our new earth and our role in it individually and collectively as we move forward in the Aquarian age from the Piscean age. And that is the great shift, the great conjunction um, between Saturn and Jupiter and also Pluto last December 2020. It has been impactful, and I think you'll see moon cycle by moon cycle what I'm talking about. I'm not an astrologer, but I do my best to correlate as a scientist studying the energy. Actually, I'm dealing with the energy, and then I'm able to piece together the rest of the information just almost intuitively, really, by going with the cards and my sense of what I'm picking up on. So I've said before, I'm not an astrologer, but I do have an intuition about it, and it seems to be pretty accurate. So, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying, I've been at it for a while too. First, I started, years ago, I used to look at the horoscopes in the newspapers and just kind of think about it and then move on in my life. I had a busy life in my younger years, but Spirit has me going about my knowledge and my using my experience in a different way than probably most people on the planet, with a science background in particular. Whoops. Up the Angels of Atlantis. Yeah, it's very much about bringing in the Atlantean age, okay, the new golden age. So, yes, the angels are here. And just to let you know, I'm going to do the sage while I'm talking here pretty quickly. Just to let you know, Archangel Michael and Metatron are front and center in this reading, this particular card or pile number 3, okay? So the other 2 piles dealt with fire energy and pretty intense messages, okay, by which our culture and our environment and our planet is greatly suffering. This deck is bringing about a different element, and that is water in the form of crystals or snow. Okay, so as I light this and meditate and bring in the angels 5D and above, including Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron, of course, which correlates to Enoch who is Enoch, who walked this earth in biblical time. Okay, so they're with us at this point, as they were with me when I drew these cards, which I think is totally fascinating, you know, because it just seems like, oh, you're shuffling cards and you're just pulling out cards that say certain things, but the energy behind it is what matters, okay? And it is quantum, and it is physical, and it is quantum physics, okay? So from wave to particle, particle to wave. We're doing a little dance with the universe right now to blend in the past, present, and future challenges. And of course, we're going to need higher wisdom for that. So you'll see where Metatron is coming in, and also in relation to the chakras, because Archangel Metatron, I don't know that he rules over chakras. I can't say that. But he is one of several angels here to help us advance in our evolutionary status on this planet, as our planet struggles to birth herself a new place, a new status, if you will, in the cosmos, okay? Because there are dark forces, dark matter, dark matters that I've talked about before that have been plaguing us for so long. And so it's no wonder that we have so much strife and struggle on this planet, which can be seen from space, right? I worked for NASA, or at NASA, for private contractors, 2 different ones. And I had no knowledge of any of this type of information for the longest time. I didn't even know that I had angels helping me, or I didn't really realize just how much I was being guided until I sat down and wrote my book, Past Forward, while I was recovering from near heart attack, which I won't get into the details of why that happened, but it wasn't of my own volition. It was actually purposed. So, you know, I've had cancer as well, which is an anthropogenic caused dis-ease as well. So it's interesting that I went through those things as I was taking science classes, slowly but surely, over many years. Okay, so over 10 years. It was about 12 years part-time, with the exception of the last year or so that I ended up moving from the East Coast back to the West Coast, and had essentially had to finish before I had burnout, you know, because I was already really burned out from working so hard for so long, which is why it's so tragic to see what's happening to the science industry, because people that have commandeered science and scientists, which I talk about for card 2, so watch that. It's been commandeered so much, my profession, and I couldn't have foreseen just how this was going to happen, but I was being guided to complete coursework and do the things that I did for a higher purpose, which I think you'll be able to start seeing the more you realize what these messages mean and who I am, and how Spirit has been guiding me to do these messages for a higher purpose as well. Okay, so I did listen to my intuition all the way through. I could have listened to the U.S. military and I would not have been able to become the person that I have become but for me saying no to things that didn't seem right or didn't seem logical or didn't seem fair, that actually even seemed, uh, to subjugate me as a person, let alone being a female, okay? Because I was just thinking about this the other day. In the 90s, I was getting some of that treatment, but I didn't, well, even in the 80s and the 90s after I got married, there was this undertow always of, you're down here and we're up here. But I never looked at people in the military or outside in civilian life as better than me or worse than me. And I didn't even really see rank. In fact, I didn't really commit it to memory of, seeing certain people with certain stripes and going, oh, he's this or she's that rank. I just have always pretty much dealt with people on the level that I would want to be treated. But if they were mistreating me, then I had this, I don't want to say like a superpower, but I've learned it more and more that it is kind of like that. Because God doesn't make junk, okay? And none of us are junk, but we're being led to believe, even through this COVID BS, that, the people that are getting the vaccine are going to be somehow better off, and therefore then it gets taken to, oh, you're better because you got the vaccine and I'm not because I didn't. It's the same kind of BS with the black skin versus the white skin, the Hispanic versus the blacks, the woman versus the man. I mean, it's all this duality that keeps getting thrust into society to divide us, divide what makes us really humane, which is our emotions, and being in an emotional balance. And so this card right here describes this pretty well. That we're having a harder time balancing ourselves. I'm not sure why this isn't focusing as well. There it goes. Okay, so this is what a lot of us feel like on the planet right now, especially. But I'd been dealing with this kind of energy for more than 2 decades. And I started reading a book after I was married in 1986. Something prompted me to read it, and I had just started taking a few college courses at American River Community College. But I found time to read this book along with it, and that's how it's pretty much been for me over the past 30 years. I was super busy, but I always found time, even though I was going to college, working full-time, raising a young son, and moving with the military as we did. I still found, I had a lot of time still to ruminate on things and sort things out. And I visited self-help books more often after 9/11. So it was this constant search for guidance and information. But I always thought it was just me that it was doing it, that I was curious. But it turns out that there has been more cohesiveness to this reason why I've been guided as I have. And it turns out, too, that I've been able to, in a really short period of time, teach the intricacies of what I was being shown, and so that I could help more people with what's coming down the pike. Because, as I said, I've been dealing with this kind of difficulty as a former military spouse, as it turns out. and one who was, sensing her environment around her and not wondering, of course, why certain things were happening or were directed at me at certain times, and then they escalated. So I won't get into all of those details, but it turns out that that energy has a lot to do with how people have been treated in past history, and especially so during the Vietnam War. Um, and I had no idea that I would be, finding myself in warlike conditions, but that's what happened by 1999, and increasingly so thereafter. If I can get this lit. So, mind you, I was finishing up my science degree at the University of California, Davis in 1999 and graduated finally by 2000. March of 2000, I finished my coursework, and by June, I was able to walk, in the ceremony and receive my degree in environmental and resources science, or resource sciences, through UC Davis, in Davis, California. So I'm going to start with the Elemental Oracle, and so the first 16 minutes or so will be the introduction for this extended, but I'm going to move through this pretty quickly, and I'm just thinking, I'm picking up on some things. So Spirit has me focusing while I'm looking at this on this box right here, Promises from God for Women, and this is a deck that I just got recently. I put it here because I was going to talk about it later, but I think this message is going to be to help those who are suffering emotionally as women on our planet, or men that are more sensitive and having a very difficult time coping and existing in what has become, since 9/11, a hyper-masculine, extremely dominant, extremely controlling society. Okay, so yeah, that is definitely coming through, and you'll see why these cards that have been on my desk for a while are relevant, and Spirit did the same thing as I was getting this reading together from start to finish. It's about healing fear and balancing that imbalance between masculine and feminine energy on our planet. There's a book by Susan Flutie, or a couple books that you can check out, about her, or not about her, but written by her. And one is about 9/11 and fear and fantasy, and the other one is, I forget the exact title, but it's about the war on women. Okay. So, yes. So I'll be pulling a card from this deck, as well as the Language of Flowers, and from the mystery deck, crystal deck that I have been using for the other two cards. Okay. So the good news is, despite this difficulty that many of us who are more sensitive on our planet, despite this walking on eggshells type experience, just to be us and be who we were born in the skin we were born in, you know. There's no other way to describe it other than, you know, with the issue of black and white and Hispanic and white and, Japanese versus Chinese versus Taiwanese, and etc. You can't change the skin that you were born in. Yet we have people on our planet who will, and it's as if they know this, and they have devised all kinds of heinous ways to make you feel bad about the skin you're in. Okay. So, and, magazines are guilty of creating this dichotomy and this fantasy, that somehow we should all be white, or we should all be, men, or we should all be extremely dominant, or there's something wrong with you. I mean, it's all just, it's craziness, okay? And it's imbalance. So this is what I'm talking about. We're about rebalancing the planet. And the way we're doing it is collectively, person by person. Because a zebra is a zebra, right? And out in the Serengeti, or, wherever else that they roam in Africa in particular, the zebra is the zebra, and it knows it's a zebra, okay? It's not trying to be a lion, and it's not trying to be a hyena. Yeah, there is this food chain, if you will, but still, they follow the law of nature. And in fact, that's part of universal law. So that's what we're getting back to, instead of all this fear-mongering by manipulating people through common law and statutes that some control at the expense of the many. So I did go to law school for a while too, and so I am blending in what I've learned from law school into some of my readings as well as a scientist. So let me take a drink here. So at 22 minutes, 44 seconds or thereabouts, I'll start with these cards. I like what this says. God designed me, created me, blesses me, heals me, defends me, forgives me, and loves me. Okay? So don't forget that. These are the two cards that were on my desk, with also an energy oracle number 9 card. And that was broken heart, I think. Okay, and that's what some of these jaded people on our planet are actually trying to do, is hurt people's hearts, and even attack their hearts with there it goes, with electronic equipment. That's why Metatron is important here, because in dealing with the chakras are our electrical spine within each of our bodies. And even animals, animals are balanced in their quote-unquote thinking because they are balanced with nature, because they operate in sync with nature. They don't try to dominate the environment in which they need to live. It doesn't make any sense. But that's in fact what man is doing, is dominating over the very planet and environment that he needs to live. Again, it's insanity. And that's the imbalance between the masculine and the feminine energy that I'm talking about. Okay? It's also the imbalance in the left brain and the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. And those who are trying to sort this out in past history have even had their brains shot out, like JFK, John F. Kennedy. So who did that, you know? He was a more democratic president than the ones we have seen since. So you can start connecting those dots as well. And there was a lot of jealousy about him because he was also a very good-looking man, intelligent. He had his flaws and imperfections and made some mistakes, but he had his heart in the right place for society. So we need to get back to that, okay? Because I'm talking about, you know, when I was a kid, I was born in the 60s. So I was too young to appreciate what he was trying to do then. Although I, of course, got it, you know, got the message loud and clear a long time ago, you know, as I studied history and started thinking about what was happening, you know, to our society. So I wrote about that in the book Pass Forward, and that's a book about me, but my relation to my observations in this kind of a world, basically. Okay. And that book got blocked by 2014, 2015. And that's exactly when my house was stolen, essentially. It was just a few years after I was targeted and my animals were targeted for ill health and death, essentially. And a lot of scientists have died through those kinds of targeting. So, you know, something's got to give on our planet. And luckily, this great shift, this conjunction, the Saturn-Jupiter great conjunction has a lot to do with shifting this type of behavior and negativity on our planet. Is extremely dark, and I've seen and observed things that I'd never thought I would experience. Otherworldly energies, if you will, even Darth Vader like looking characters appearing inside my house when I was going through a lot of turmoil around 9/11. Ghosts, if you will, apparitions visiting me to protect. So there's the good ghosts and there's the dark matter ghosts. So uh, these other worldly beings do exist, but so do angels, and that's why angels know our dilemma on this planet, and they also know the struggles that this planet is suffering energetically. So, first card that I talk about then is silence. Snow. Okay. And this is what it says. It's number 34, which breaks down to 7, which is spiritual journey. And so this is a spiritual journey that I've been on. And more people are seeing and experiencing things like I have. So luckily, there's more people that can vouch for or attest to the fact that our planet is undergoing major transformational change, regardless of the parasites who think the majority of us are the parasites on the planet. But that's just twisted logic and conditioning that some are not going to wake up from. And they'll be able to decide for themselves why they chose that direction instead of waking up on our planet to help our planet. And they won't stay on the planet, okay? They will have to take their spirit somewhere else because the vibe on this planet is changing at this great conjunction and shift. And if you understand what Saturn is about, that's essentially the devil. or the lessons in the temptations and the manipulations and the player-like behavior. So there are lessons. But if you learn the lessons and don't play people and don't manipulate intentionally and don't try to make life difficult for others trying to just live in their skin on this planet, then you'll receive the blessings, and that's what Jupiter energy is about. Okay? So in a nutshell. And then Pluto was pretty close to Jupiter and Saturn at the 2020 winter solstice, which is the great conjunction. And Pluto is about transformation, and we are entering that period right now in the season of Scorpio, which happened October 23rd into November 22nd or thereabouts. Okay, and that's about the time frame that JFK was killed in I think it was 19 don't quote me on this. I think it was 1962 or 63. Okay. I always get the year wrong, but I know it was November 22nd. Okay, so I'm going to set this here, and I'm going to read right here. Snow. Allow yourself to soften. Don't speak just for the sake of it. You do not need to issue an opinion on everything. Choose your words carefully. Sometimes observing is the best way to gain information and trust. And that's what I have done over many years. I was gaining quite a bit of information through my observations and not really saying anything to anybody because I was just thinking for myself. But eventually, some people around me were picking up on what I was observing and learning, and they wanted to silence me, essentially. Okay, so this card is about silence, but there are different aspects of silence in our culture, and some people now are even being quote-unquote canceled. Well, that's another form of silence that I'm speaking about. So the word of power, in Latin, silentium, is a derivative, or silence is derived from silentium, which is Latin, and it means be quiet, exclamation point. So, to me, snow always equals silence. When it snows, the environmental sound is dulled and muffled. There is a sense of quiet and contemplation if you allow yourself the time to be out in the snow with few people around. And it's just beautiful. It's like it is a sound that is rare. So do enjoy, if you do get snow in your region of the world, get out in snow and ground yourself that way through sound or the lack of noise in Mother Nature, in nature, and with Mother Nature, because you will resonate with nature. There are few environments in modern life that offer such quiet, and that is absolutely true. I've grown up in this environment of snow. Once snow crystals form in the atmosphere, they grow by absorbing surrounding water droplets. When a snowflake hits the ground, it melts slightly and assimilates depending on temperature, structure, and snow forms on the ground. Mountainous areas at altitude are likely to produce snow that is called relief snowfall. It is caused when masses of air pushed by wind are forced up the side of elevated formations, rock formations. And of course we have some rocks here, right? Some crystalline rocks. So, you know, having crystals around isn't voodoo. It's what's voodoo is dark energy, okay? So you can charge your crystals with the moon, or you can let your crystals absorb negative energy and not cleanse them and be impacted by them, just like a person is impacted by negativity. And we each are water bodies. Most of the composition of a human body and mammals, in fact, are water. Okay, mostly water. So the lifting of air up the side of a mountain or a range results in adiabatic cooling and the resulting precipitation needed as snow or for snow. The resulting temperature needed for snow, which is a form of precipitation. Rain and snow are different forms of precipitation. Snow forecasts are an important aspect of living in snowy areas, as large dumps affect everything from transport to agriculture. Skiing, snowshoeing, and snowboarding are all extremely popular activities to do in the snow. It was believed the Norse god Ullr, U-L-L-R, Ullr, invented skiing so man could get around more easily, to hunt and to travel, and Ullr is still honored for his invention. One Norwegian ski team had an Ullr symbol on their uniforms during a past Winter Olympics. It is true that each snow crystal is unique. Although scientists have found through microphotography they tend to correspond to around 80 specific shapes and sizes. So obviously the element we're talking about for this pile or this card is water. And I encourage you to find the link to Masaru Emoto's books about messages in water, messages in snow crystals. And you can also glean a little bit of important information about his work from watching, watching the movie or the documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know, the extended version of that movie. Okay. So at the end, I will read these cards that were sitting on my desk, along with the number 9 card from the Energy Oracle about a broken heart. Okay? And I'll read these at the end as well. These are just my notes. But right now I'm channeling and just reading some of the cards from these booklets. Okay? So, I just lost my place with that one. Are they together? Be bold. The first one is be bold and make the first move. I think both of these are more the special cards. I know the bottom of the deck card, expect powerful changes, so I'm going to read this one first. This is the bottom of the deck card from the Moonology deck. If you want affirmation that you can achieve your dreams and get the desired outcome in the situation you're talking about, then this is it. This is the card of beginnings, and there are powerful energies at work, which is what I've been talking about in the introduction for this extended for card number 3. But be prepared, it could be quite a ride, and events now could be even jarring and uncomfortable. However, any new directions you take will almost always lead somewhere better than where you are at the moment. So it takes some form of risk. And this is new moon eclipse. And I may have misspoken when I talked about this card in the intro. You know, just for the general discussion about the Snow Silence card and the Moonology card. The two cards that I'm going to be reading. But we do have a full moon eclipse in Taurus coming up in November. This one is new moon eclipse energy, and I believe there's a new moon eclipse coming just after this full moon eclipse in Taurus in November. So yeah, this is a card of beginnings, and there are powerful energies at work, but get prepared because it could be quite a ride, and events now could be jarring and even very uncomfortable. However, any new directions you take will almost always lead somewhere better than where you are at this time. Whatever is happening now is happening for a reason that you will appreciate later on. A new portal is actually opening up, and all you have to do is have the courage to forget about the past and move through it. You are being put back on the right track, so there is nothing to fear. And this card applies to this bottom of the deck card, New Moon Eclipse, Expect Powerful Change, applies to each of the cards for this first reading. Each of the bottom of the deck cards that I show are resonant for each one of the specific 3 cards pulled, because when I shuffled each of these decks, and there are about 7 or 8 of them, the bottom of the deck card that resulted after shuffling and getting the number of cards Spirit wanted out are these bottom cards, and this is one of them. And below, Expect Powerful Change is your hard work is paying off. New Moon in Capricorn. So the new moon in Capricorn, I think, is December 19th. But you can look that up. You can Google New Moon in Capricorn 2021 and see what comes up. Or you can also visit the, or watch card number 2, I believe. I think I posted a couple links for that in relation to actually, I think it was January 2nd of 2022 is going to be the next new moon in Capricorn, and the other, it's not December 19th, it's actually January, it was like around mid-January of this year for the preceding new moon in Capricorn. So yeah, look for that information. I believe I posted it for card number 2. So attune to the moon and say, never mind the past. Life evolves every single day. The additional meanings for this bottom of the deck card are yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. You're being shunted towards your life purpose. Whatever is happening now is happening for your highest good. And this is an important turning point in your life. The teaching for this card is new moon eclipses are among the most exciting astrological events. They herald a complete change of pace. It's as though you're headed in one direction, probably being guided by your ego, and then here comes the divine to turn you instead to face the direction that you actually need to go. And they talk about the divine in terms of spirit, which is what I do, but also goddess energy. So make sure that you watch my most recent post on Patreon blue crystal, Bluecristyl, about the goddess Ishtar and commitment. Okay, so this teaching regarding this card, expect powerful change at a new moon eclipse, which is coming up, is regardless of whether or not there is a new moon eclipse happening when you pull this card, it's a powerful affirmation of positive turnarounds. And all I'm saying is you can look up the next new moon eclipse and jot down in your journal what's happening now, just around you through observation, and what is transpiring as we get to the next new moon eclipse. I think it might be in December of 2021. I just haven't looked, so you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read the two cards that came out. Don't let your past hold you back, which is very applicable in correlation to this card that I just read, right? About letting the past go and evolving forward. Okay? Because your hard work will pay off when you put in that work to evolve. I'm sorry, I thought that I had these positioned, but I didn't. So here's this one. Be bold and make the first move, the cardinal moon. Okay, now is the time to be bold and even bossy. Take matters into your own hands. Cardinal signs are powerful and self-starting. They're determined and great at organizing. Drawing this card strongly suggests that you're going to need to be all of these things in order to get your ideal resolution in the situation that you're asking about. This card may challenge you on how strongly you really want something. If you're worrying about a situation, it is a suggestion to be less passive. Instead, take an assertive stance as you steer events where you want them to go. And that's what I was talking about in pile 2 with the charm. It's a wheel, like a ship's steering wheel. Speak up for what you want. If you're serious about sorting things out, you may need to take the lead in some way to step up as a leader. Attune to the moon and say, I am taking charge of my destiny! Exclamation point. Additional meanings for this card. Be bold and follow your heart and your emotions. Avoid recklessness or moving too fast. Come into your power. The time for action is now. Ask Ganesha, the Hindu elephant god, for help. So here again, animals are coming through, just as I've been talking about for pile number 2 or card 2 in relation to bushfires and war. Okay, so it's a animal holocaust is essentially what's happening on our planet. So perhaps you can use your voice and your actions with your heart and your emotions in balance to help balance this horrific evil on our planet, because it's going to take each of us to do so. And also the same goes for our children, okay? Because they need to live in a balanced world, right? So I was surely picking up on this imbalance in my youth, and that's what I was writing about in my book, Pass Forward. Okay, so let me see. Cardinal moon, the next cardinal moon deals with Capricorn as well. So you see we have a new moon eclipse to observe the energy changes and the shift, and your hard work is paying off is about this Capricorn influence as well, and new moon energy. Okay, And below that is new moon in Scorpio, which is where we're at exactly right now, coming up on the 4th of November. And this is talking about working through your fears. And that is the card that was sitting on my desk too. So I'm contemplating all of this with my feelings as well and my intuitive guidance. Healing fear. And that brings about the balance that we need on the planet. Okay, so you can see where Spirit is priming me even before I pulled these cards, because these two cards were on my desk with others, including the number 9 card that I mentioned from the Energy Oracle. So I just kind of like think about things through different readings that I pull for myself, and then I set cards like this one here has been on my desk for a very long time, and it's creative writing. There it goes, and it's a number 7, and that's from the Akashic Oracle. And it is this deck that I actually pulled a card today for the monthly message that I'll be posting next. Okay, so maybe you can get a journal and write down your thoughts, even about what you're perceiving here. At the beginning, in the introduction, I forgot to mention the, also the astrological influences talked about in these Moonology cards, so you can rewind this extended reading and jot down what these new moon energies are, because the bottom of the deck energy is very influential to this whole message. So I just read be bold and take the first move, so you can figure out perhaps when you should do that, and you should also prepare at this time so that you can do so at these new moon periods, okay? Because the dark side is using oracle and tarot and probably seances and other ways to tap into the energy for their purpose. So we're learning to do this to help our planet rather than be parasitic on this planet. Okay? So the other card is Don't Let Your Past Hold You Back, which I'm going to read next, and that has to do with South Node energy or South Node influence in our cosmos, and that has to do with past life challenges. So don't let your past hold you back. And, you know, it could be that you're stuck in a karmic trench, quote unquote, and you're dealing with karma in relation to past life. But I've learned in dealing with karmic situations, which is what this was talking about, you know, what situation or situations are you dealing with? Very well could be karmic in your case, or karma from past life that you need to clear. But also be aware, as I become aware, that other people that are being parasitic and not evolving on our planet want you to actually own their karma. And that's what this mind control has a lot to do with, is they want to control your energy and your physical body and your emotions and heart so that they can continue doing their bullshit, and you can act, you know, with, you can be their conscience but take on their negative emotions as if you're the one that's supposed to fix things. And I didn't even know what that meant back in the early 2000s when I heard even the suggestion that I needed to do certain things that I didn't even know what the hell they were talking about. So that just tells you the projection is diabolical. Okay, people that people know what their karma is, and they're working on themselves. But when this stuff hits you sideways or comes at you from behind, like I said, it likes to come at you from behind and ambush you, essentially. That's pretty much indicative of sociopathic and psychopathic behavior. And those kinds of people are not in balance with their emotions or their heart. And their minds are maniacal, which I get to in card 2 and pile 2. I talk about that in relation to the bushfires. Okay, so obviously our planet is suffering because this is parasitic energy, and they're also tapping into your soul and your future growth. So you have to figure out ways, as I've had to figure out, how to cut off or cut the cords. That's why Archangel Michael is showing up here, because it is satanic. And anyone who knows about Archangel Michael knows that he's the angel who has his foot on the neck of Satan. Okay, so I think I explained that best I can right now while I'm channeling, but know that you're good enough, and that whatever BS is being put into your head to manipulate your emotions is gaslighting, and that's how these sociopaths and psychopaths who are not resonating positively on our planet want you to think, so they can prey on you and your family and your energy and your money to, that you need for your family, which is also what is happening to our tax dollars in America that's going other places and other countries who are also being parasitic and not evolving, because they can hoard more resources that way and take control of more people they can prey on. So it's a really ugly, vicious, dark matter that is transpiring, and many people have not done the work mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Strangely, I cannot find this card. Don't let your past hold you back. There it is. Again, it's a South Node energy. Okay, it's the color green, which is corollary to the heart chakra. The South Node, like the North Node, is a karmic point, which is what I just said, basically. But it's opposite of the North Node and relates to the past, perhaps even to past lives. So whatever you are going through and whatever you are asking about, there is a likely chance that age-old programming and conditioning is stopping you from achieving all that you might. Do you feel stuck in something? This card will often come as a sign that the situation or the relationship that you're struggling with or asking about has somehow become toxic or suffocating or parasitic. Same thing. It suggests that someone needs to be released. Even you may need to release yourself from it. And there's some kind of addiction going on, or an unhealthy attachment, which is what I was saying, this dark energy. And that's the stuff that was coming at me essentially around 9/11. So, we were living on the west coast of America, United States of America, and the tragedies happened on the east coast, yet that energy was quote unquote in the air, even in California back then. So this unhealthy attachment needs to be sorted out, and that's what I've been working on a lot, to figure out what it is. Hashtag IT is what I use sometimes to talk about it, but it's many things and it's very confusing. So you might want to visit my website, Science Spirituality Universe city.com, okay, and you can peruse that, the blog post, the olive green column on the right, going through the archives to see what I've prepared since 2018, as guided by spirit. So one thing is for sure, when you get this card, which I'm holding, you're being challenged to make some changes. Even if staying where you are feels easier and safer, you may need to change your situation by changing your location. Attune to the moon and say, I release the past. Additional meanings for this card are, a relationship is karmic and has played out across many lifetimes. Your attraction to someone may be verging on the obsessive. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. So the teaching in relation to the South Node is, the South Node is where the moon crosses the ecliptic going south. Now for card number 1, that was the equator, and so this could also apply in that sense, and also in relation to the direction that I doused over this card, Snow Silence, and you can find that dowsing direction. I think it took a northwest to southeast diagonal movement when I held my pendant above this Snow Silence card. So something, crossing the ecliptic going south could also correlate with northeast or northwest to southeast. So on the horoscope chart, it shows us what we are likely to become obsessed with, but which will probably do us little or no good. The South Node is the karmic astrological point that reminds us of the well-known phrase, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten or got. Okay, so that's good. Now this card, Be Bold and Make the First Move, is more the higher chakra colors. So balancing your lower chakras is imperative to opening up to the universe through your third eye and crown chakra and soul star chakra, etc. And Archangel Metatron, as I said, helps us with this balancing and gaining higher wisdom. So these are the cards that are coming in next. Okay, and I'll read them quickly. Archangel Metatron. This is the wisdom card, right? So again, it's like opening up the third eye. Many of us on this planet have lived more than one life, and several of us have lived during Egyptian times. Okay. Archangel Metatron is the archangel called the supernal teacher. And in this book, Metatron covers divine intelligence, mercy, miracles, and wisdom. And wisdom is the card that came out, okay? Excuse me. The Sphinx has always created within us the wonderment of enigma, for within its being lies the wisdom of the centuries, the knowledge of bygone civilizations. Therefore, your choice of this oracle brings to you knowledge of your own divine wisdom. So you may have been influenced by someone who has a past life that they're working through in this lifetime and the karma involving Egypt. Or you could be working through karma from that time period. Therefore, your choice of this oracle brings to you knowledge of your own divine wisdom, and that's part of gaining wisdom and evolving, is understanding who you were and who you are and who you can become. Through eons of time and the quest of many lives, you have wrought such beauty and knowing within your soul. Archangel Metatron wishes you to be still, to meditate on your own innate wisdom, your inner knowing, without anybody telling you, and to act with the honor of an angel. Please chant Ha to feel these energies moving through your heart as the seat of the soul. And that card, let me see. This card correlates nicely with that in relation to the heart chakra, like I said, and I haven't read this wisdom card before. So it's the color that correlates with the heart chakra. Don't let your past hold you back. So your past may very well be past lives, not just your recent past, your divorce, or whatever trauma you're dealing with from this life we're living now on the planet. So please chant Ha, H-A, Ha, to feel these energies moving through your heart as the seat of the soul. So that's part of balancing yourself on this planet, getting your mind balanced, but also in relation to your heart and your soul. Mind, heart, soul. That's where the wisdom comes in as you make the effort, and it takes intention. So you set your intention to do so, which I guide you to help you do on my website, sciencespiritualityuniversecity.com. I'm not trying to sell you anything, I'm trying to help you. Okay, so those postings are free, and the one I'm talking about specifically is the one posted or pinned at the top, even though it's an older message. It's the June 2020 mid-month message, I believe, about taking steps. So you're taking steps toward higher wisdom, higher knowledge, higher power, not superpower in terms of dominating through with war machines. I'm talking about real intelligence, not made-up intelligence, not central intelligence. I'm talking about higher divine intelligence. And I just said Archangel Metatron in this book is about divine intelligence, mercy, miracles, and wisdom, which I just read. Okay? So there's that one. And then Archangel Michael comes right after Metatron alphabetically. So this is the enchantment card. And you can see there's a unicorn on there. So believe in the unicorns. Just like I said in some of my other readings, you'll see I have a chalkboard with a unicorn on it. Okay, and I think that was the one that I also used for my new Sensations reading series. Okay, so do catch those messages too as they come out over the next several months. Michael is the cosmic leader. Enchantment. Michael asks you to remember the magic of your life by connecting with the path of the enchanted. Is magic missing from your life, or are you aware of a lack of imagination in your creative purpose? Allow the divine joy of the child within you to reconnect with the free flow fun that was once present in your innocence. This is a doorway to the numinous. With this card, the unicorn's magical horn touches your soul with love of its I can't say this, perspicacity, perspicacity, compelling, eternal, especially wise about the divine light that is within you. You just have to remember it. When it shines, the charisma of your soul magnetizes all people to you. Chant he, he, through your crown chakra to resonate with the higher frequencies of enchantment. And again, this is getting back to the Moonology cards. Okay, this one I talked about before I even read this card. This one's the green color for the heart chakra, which correlates to the Metatron card. And now this card correlates to the crown chakra color, mostly, you know, the purple rain, if you will, which Archangel Michael is talking about in terms of enchantment or magic. Okay, and I talk about magic in my series called Earth is Magical. So you'll also want to catch those as they come forth. And I'm getting ready to do another one in November, December, when I have a few minutes to do so. So again, with this card, the unicorn's magical horn touches your soul with the love of its perspicacity. So we're dealing with the heart energy and the soul, seat of the soul, and crown chakra communication from the divine. Basically, you're getting back in touch with your home. It's like E.T. sending a message home, okay? So, compelling and eternal and especially wise about the divine light within you, Archangel Michael is reminding you of your divine light, which is the magic within you. So when it shines, the charisma of your soul magnetizes all people to you. And you can't get this by being angry and warring on the planet. You will never reach that magical point, okay? You just won't, because you'll be in the karmic trenches, akashically speaking. So chant he through your crown chakra in order to resonate with the higher frequencies of this magic enchantment. Now, before I said too, one of the first or the second oracle decks that I got was when I had very little money because I had been thieved in California when I was a scientist, and we essentially had hardly any food, and then our house was taken from us, and our animals were targeted for death too. But when we made it over the mountains, so to speak, from California over into Nevada and Utah, it was like a switch turned, okay? And that dark energy fell away. We went over the mountain. There were 3 crosses. As I turned to my left, we were parked for the night, nowhere to sleep, but we slept in the cab of our moving truck. And we had 4 dogs with us. They had luckily made it out as well from the civil asset forfeiture fraud that we suffered, along with millions of other people on this planet in the United States. But as I said, we pulled into like a 7-Eleven, and I had happened to look over to the left, and there were 3 crosses in the dark that were lit up when I looked over, and I just knew that we had gotten away from that evil, if only for a time, it is spreading into Nevada and Utah, as well as other parts of the United States. But that is why Spirit has me communicating, because Archangel Michael was around me and over me when a lot of these dark energies were coming at me. And, one of them was Darth Vader-like around 9/11. But there were other energies I'm not going to talk about here because I don't want to bring down the vibe. But they do exist, okay? And they were around as if to mock me, And I was getting very strong messages about bombs and children, okay? So, Archangel Michael was protecting me because I have a greater purpose, obviously, to communicate what I have been communicating since 2012 online. And it's about animals, but also about children and families being similar targets even now in the United States of America. Like so, you know, since 9/11, when that fraud and those lies around the funding of the war in Iraq transpired as well. Okay, so there's similar lies occurring now to target more people in the United States. And COVID is part of that evil plot. COVID-19, dis-ease. Okay, so remember, despite all of that, there is enchantment. There is magic around. And you tap into that by seeking higher knowledge, not staying in fear at the lower energy level, which is what, I posted for card number 2 as well, and card number 1, I believe, the power versus force mindset, and studying that chart. If you can get the book still, Power versus Force, you don't have to be a scientist to understand the chart. And moving up that energy chart, if you will, toward the divine love and divine source, rather than staying stuck or forced into the lower energies. That's where people get preyed on by these sociopaths who have not evolved. And by the way, they have chosen not to evolve, okay? So that gets back to this card again about healing fear. My feelings are part of my intuitive guidance system. And that's what I was tapping into more and more. And the book, or the 3 only things. It's not your imagination, coincidence, and you're not dreaming, okay? I paid close attention to what was sounding around me, and the vibes were really dark, really negative. And you must know that this energy is going to be balanced on our planet because more and more people are becoming in tune with higher wisdom, and they're not kowtowing to those fear-based manipulations that most were glued into 24/7 on the news after 9/11. Okay, so including me. I mean, I was a military spouse then with a young son. So I didn't know that they were lying about it, but I've had to learn so, and in the intricate ways that the lies are being told, I have intuited, nobody's told me from the military or anywhere else what I've learned. I've learned it through intuition, and so is my son, who is an adult now. But back then he was 11, 12, 13, and he was being targeted too, the way they target more children now in the United States in different ways. Okay, so the next card I'm going to read, and you need to know too that multiple animals are coming through this reading, not just the unicorn or the zebra, okay? There are many that I'm going to talk about, and I'll try to timestamp because I'm going to read each one of these cards, okay? And then look what shows up again, the zebra. But it's a magical zebra, okay? And this is the card from the Gateway Oracle by Denise Lynn, okay? So this is the portal or the keyhole that we're looking through. And this is the new earth that we're going toward, away from that fear-based negative vibe and the dark matter that I talk about in different ways through some of the readings that I share my personal feelings and experiences and intuitions about. Sharing of yourself. I am an incredibly generous being. The card meaning. Share who you are with others. Give what you have, what you do, and who you are. Be generous. The more freely and fully you share of yourself, the more freely and fully the universe will give to you. Now, I did mention that I was stolen from, like, it's grand theft, okay? And that has never been rectified. Even now, like 6 years later, nobody has said anything and nobody's ever tried to make amends. So that tells you how far gone a lot of these criminal minds are at high levels in our state and federal governments, because they are officials, quote unquote, doing this. And those who wear badges are involved. Those who have doctorate degrees and Juris Doctorate degrees are definitely involved. And so, yeah, give what you have, but also know the difference between being forced into giving up what you've earned over many years, like I did. The house I owned for 12 years before it was essentially pulled from me in underhanded, dark, backdoor manipulations through the justice system, quote unquote justice system. It's very evil. But, God sees all, and God was protecting me, and Archangel Michael is protecting me, and my son, and our animals, despite what we all went through physically. The universe, spirit, wants you to know. You need to share from the depths of your soul. Allow others to see your essence and feel your radiance. If you give with a thought that it's something that you must do as a duty or a sacrifice, you may feel depleted. And that's what's happened. A lot of these people involved in this theft, these theft rings and child trafficking and human trafficking and animal trafficking are involved in this sacrificial behavior, forcing others to sacrifice what they've earned, which these people forcing these situations on think that they should be forced into sacrifice. Okay, but they think this way because they're depleted, and the more depleted a person becomes energetically, the closer they become to being pulled into this dark hole that I'm talking about, this black hole. And that's the energy that I was picking up on in multiple places on our planet as I traveled and observed and wondered, what the hell this stuff I was picking up on was about. So I've seen it up close and personal. However, if you give with the belief that there's no scarcity of resources, energy, or joy, or money, the universe will pour an abundance of these things into your life. Don't expect to receive something in return. Rather, be generous and grateful because it feels right. You can only give as much as your capacity to receive. So open yourself to receiving more. These questions you can ask yourself also in relation to this message. How can I give more? What is stopping the flow within my life? What could occur in my life if I give without reservation? So this is for all those billionaires out there. What are you going to do with all your money? You know, when the earth is trashed. Watch the movies, The Terminator, you know, because I think you can find some answers to your questions in relation to, do you really want the earth to look like that? Or are you going to dig deep and evolve away from hoarding resources and trying to make a buck every which way possible to look like you're, you know, better than everybody else, when in fact you're being a glutton, and perhaps even being greedy and prideful. And those are two of the 7 deadly sins. So I'm going to post pride and greed, I believe, on this particular for this particular reading card, for card 3, Snow and Silence, because more and more people are being silenced by the haves to have nothing and to be in destitution out on, you know, the streets in the wintertime with no shelter. And that's the civil asset forfeiture BS that I experienced, and so did my son. And, you know, we didn't do anything wrong. We were just a mother's son who trusted certain military people that we should not have. Okay, so the next group of oracle cards is from the Animal Allies and Gemstone Guardians. And I'm going to try to read each of these quickly, just so you have the information. And then I'll stop this video and do the tarot, and final with the two oracle decks about flowers and promises from God for women. So here I go with first I'll read the animal message and then the gemstone message. Okay, so like I said, I shuffled and these fell out together, and some came up upside down. So I'll show you those that came upside down, and maybe, you know, maybe there's a meaning to that being upside down. Horse, I am willing to find new pathways to discover my inner power. I am determined to align with the forces of nature that feed my soul. It is easy for me to find freedom and to travel, either physically or within my consciousness. Nature brings me balance. I enjoy and absorb the positive green vibrations of this wonderful planet. Okay? Keep in mind the domestic animals that have evolved alongside man and how they're being horrifically treated by man. So who's evolved and who's not? And then I'm going to mention my hashtag to help animals too, number 2. Hashtag help animals too, number 2 it is. And for anyone who donates a minimum of $5, I will donate the proceeds that I receive to help animals too, okay? On the back side, we have dog's tooth, green moss calcite, dog tooth. Are you ready for freedom and forward movement? Is it time for you to move on or to make it easy for someone else to do so? Be ready to take a journey You may decide to take a journey within, or you can decide to journey into nature to restore your freedom and your inner strength. Recognize the gifts of nature and align with nature's pharmacy from animals and plants. Okay, and we want to make sure that we have access to nature's pharmacy from animals and plants, and that, you know, like the rainforest, where a few billionaires are trying to get a hold of farmland and rainforests to control, future medicines and medicinal cures, is very problematic. So all of this needs to be rectified, and all these quote unquote big box, big pharma, big tech, you know, uh, the larger they are, the harder they're going to fall. But we still have to protect our resources. So that's what I'm here to talk about as an environmental resource scientist. So we want to make sure we protect the rainforest from, I won't mention names, but those who are in the news these days trying to manipulate the COVID vaccine inoculations and water infrastructure and water quality and water supply and rainforest plants and agricultural land, etc. They know who they are, and they know who I am, by the way. So they know that they're being deceptive and greedy. So again, the bigger they are, the harder they're going to fall, and that's not my karma, and it's not your karma. It's going to be their karma, and that's what we're doing during this shift, is we're shifting that responsibility where it belongs. And we're not, as taxpayers and innocent citizens of the world and of the United States, going to pay for their poor choices and manipulations on our planet any longer. So there's the bear, okay? And you might even be a mama bear. I've been called a mama bear too. Bear. It's easy for me to go within and know the truth. I take time for inner reflection. Contemplative thought helps me reveal and process thoughts and feelings. Not just thoughts, but feelings. Taking drugs, synthetic drugs in your natural body is just tragic, and it will block and obstruct your ability to feel. So if you are taking drugs because you're having a hard time coping, drugs are not the answer. You need to be out in nature and get grounded and work to heal your chakras. So here it says, I awaken my awareness through quiet time and meditation, which you can do in nature. I am a clear channel, and my filters allow me great mental clarity. And you will have clearer mind when you do these, when you meditate and just sit in nature. Even in the wintertime with your shoes off, you can find patches of grass or leaves where you can stand. Magnetite, excuse me, magnetite octahedron is the gemstone. Are you ready to awaken your consciousness? How discerning are you? Are you too judgmental? Judgmental. Okay? And we know a lot of judgmental people are misjudging, including judges. Do you realize the power of just being rather than doing? Which is what they teach in the military, which is why so many military people are so imbalanced. And I observed that firsthand as a former military spouse. So there is great value in going within to sort out your thoughts and feelings. Establish the space to make order out of chaos. And they're not making order out of chaos, but they're calling it order. It's really disorder. And manipulating the DSM-4 and DSM-5 to change the definition of what disorder means is a prime example of manipulation of what is real and what are the underlying situations and problems plaguing our military members, who are gaining, by the way, at least 2/3, close to 3/4 of all collected U.S. tax dollars to do what? To make up new enemies and to war against them. Okay, so gain clarity on the difference between judgment and observation. Okay? That's the message from Magnetite Octahedron. Eagle. I am awakening every day in many ways. I enjoy seeking connection with my higher self and observing myself from a higher perspective. I have great clarity at this higher perspective level. I am a catalyst to awaken awareness in others and in all beings. I see clearly now and become aware of profound spiritual truths. Okay, and the eagle is the animal mascot for the United States of America that is being deunited. So how clear are people thinking to want to actually deunite through, behaviors that are illegitimate and destructive? On the back is window quartz. Do you feel your connection with the sky above and the earth beneath your feet? Are you aligned with your true spiritual nature? Are you able to see life from a greater or higher perspective? Let your consciousness soar high as you stay grounded. Allow your vision of future to reach far and wide to align with the past and the present for yourself and for others. So that's not being selfish, that's being selfless. Okay, and quartz is a powerful crystal to gain clarity and clear energy in your physical environment, along with black tourmaline for protection. So what we're trying to gain is profound spiritual truth, not man-made up truths, which are used to fight wars, okay? If you get the book War is a Racket by former U.S. Marine Corps Major General Smedley Butler, you'll begin to see what I'm talking about. Snake. It is safe for me to feel my feelings. Feelings of anger, sorrow, and grief will pass as I release them from my body. So that is to feel your feelings, not mask them with drugs, because the feelings are still there, and that's where the dis-ease comes. And then the anger is even worse, and the sorrow is even worse and deeper, and the grief is even, ever more debilitating. So drugs do nothing for you if you are taking drugs. That's just the drug playing tricks on you, which is essentially what Satan does. And I call drugs the gateway to hell. And I've seen it in people I've been around that are under the influence, and I don't want to be anywhere near them. because of the vibe. And I even sensed that as a small child. Okay, and so I knew I didn't like that vibe. But it is a vibe that is similar to what I've observed in others under the influence of Satan directing the war machine. So, in my estimation, from my observation,